Wild Times in the Western Frontier. This is Sega Masters. Before we delve into today's spotlight, I feel the need to point out how we've reached August of 1989, which means we've entered a new era for Sega in the North American video game market. One that would have far-reaching consequences for the Master System's future in this region. On the 14th of August, Sega officially debuted its 16-bit Genesis console in the US, starting with test launches in New York and Los Angeles with a nationwide rollout to follow. If it wasn't obvious from all the hoopla surrounding the rebranded Mega Drive's arrival in the States, Sega was essentially heralding the console as their new best hope to finally topple the Nintendo juggernaut. And we will be documenting that console's journey to eventually take the throne from Nintendo with a second series on YouTube, which will be debuting soon. But what about Sega's original hope to compete against Nintendo? Where does Sega's new focus on the Genesis leave the Master System, you might ask? Sega attempted to downplay any possible demise of their 8-bit platform by claiming that games would still be published for it, though one can speculate their distribution contract with Tonka had something to do with it. Even with the Genesis dominating the video game headlines, Sega and Tonka did announce a number of upcoming cartridges for the Master System during the preceding summer months. But just because Sega promised to continue supporting the Master System alongside the Genesis, that didn't necessarily mean both consoles would be supported equally. Far from it, in fact. Today's game serves as such an example as we're looking at Wanted, an Old West-themed cartridge developed by Sanritsu for Sega that gives us an opportunity to dust off the increasingly neglected light phaser for some classic arcade-style shooting action. The cart's premise is simple. You take the role of a nameless lawman out to bring justice to the wild frontier the only way he knows how, by gunning down as many outlaws as possible through 7 stages, 6 of which are auto-scrolling. When you first boot the cartridge up, you're offered 3 difficulty levels to choose from, after which you get a quick primer of the upcoming level, including your reward for successfully surviving to the end of that stage. Then you take to the dusty streets to begin purging the town of the riffraff plaguing it. As your avatar automatically makes his way down the slowly scrolling road, the outlaws appear from behind doors, windows, or in the alleys with guns drawn looking to pump you full of lead. You obviously need to gun them down first, since each hit you suffer will sap some of your health. Shooting certain objects in the background will uncover the game's only power-up. A bomb that, when detonated, will not only eliminate all the enemies on the screen, but also restore some of your vitality depending on how many baddies were caught in the blast radius. Your sidearm has unlimited ammunition, but you need to be careful not to get too wild with your gunfire as you're cutting down your foes. Innocent bystanders will often wander into the scene, right in the line of fire, and accidentally shooting them will penalize you some health. You're also docked some of your vitality if you nail a desperado before he has a chance to pull his gun on you. Apparently you have to follow an honor system or something. At the conclusion of the level, the gang's ringleader will eventually appear and run around the screen while spraying bullets at you. This bandit requires 9 direct hits to take out, and should you succeed in sending him to the hereafter, you pass the level and are awarded your bonus points based on how much health you have remaining. The promised reward is also credited to your score. Then it's off to the next stage, a sequence that sees you riding through the desert on your horse to continue your crusade over in the next town. Naturally, the outlaws try to ambush you along the way, and most of them ride onto the screen with guns blazing, while an occasional stationary baddie is thrown into the mix as well. As you're trading gunfire with your adversaries, you need to keep in mind that you only have 1 life to pass each stage, with no way to earn any bonus chances, though you can absorb up to 10 hits before you perish. Once your health is completely exhausted, it's the end of the trail for you, complete with a rather cool looking game over screen showing your burial at Boot Hill. However, unlimited continues are at your disposal, which starts you right back at the stage you died at least until you complete the 6th stage. If you can survive your ride through the deadly desert, you're treated to one of 2 bonus stages that challenge your sharpshooting abilities. This first bonus level tasks you with blasting the bottles that are highlighted by the cursor, and you only have about a second to pull the trigger before the cursor moves to another target. The other bonus level has you merely shooting coins that are flipped into the air. Sadly, there is no extra lives or anything substantial to be won by successfully completing these challenges. All you get for matching the qualifying score are bonus points. With no leaderboard or anything to be earned by meeting certain point thresholds, your score is pretty much irrelevant, making you wonder what's the point. And that's pretty much all there is to wonder, as this pattern basically repeats, only set in different locales. The sad truth is, Sega's idea to continue supporting the Master System was pushing out carts that were quickly thrown together just for the sake of having new titles for their 8-bit platform, and one that certainly plays like very little effort was actually put into it. The third level works very much like the opening stage, only this time you meet the villains in a saloon. That's followed by another riding stage, the other bonus level I mentioned earlier, then another shootout on the streets before you attempt to take out the big boss in the final showdown. And all you do in each sitting is blast the same faceless baddies over and over, which quickly becomes boring and repetitive. Not to mention the difficulty is really determined by how far away the light phaser is from the television screen. Otherwise, the walking stages can be conquered without much effort, since plenty of health restoring bombs can be found to keep you going. You'll be wishing for some weapon upgrades or anything that adds some spice and variety to the rather vanilla action. The energy does pick up in the riding stages, with everything coming at you fast and furious, yet the difficulty is suddenly spiked to high levels of frustration as well. Even with the light gun's mostly reliable accuracy, the tiny sprites are particularly hard to hit, while they have little trouble draining your health meter. It doesn't help that the bombs have suddenly become scarce in these levels, meaning you're given very little leeway on how many hits you can take if you want to hope to reach the next area. At least the middling gameplay is backed up by some halfway decent visuals and audio. While the sprites are nothing special, the vibrantly colored environments are decent for what they are, with some nice details to them. In a few cases, the scenery even reacts when you shoot certain spots or objects, always a nice touch. The lively piano tunes that serve as background music do a surprisingly good job at setting the mood for each level. There really isn't much more to say about Wanted, which ultimately exists as just another cartridge to use with a light phaser, not much else. It isn't a terrible cartridge, yet it only offers the bare minimum of ingredients of a shooting gallery style exercise, but not enough variation to keep most gamers interested. Light gun fans may wrangle some enjoyment out of it for a short while, but it won't be long before Wanted is left in the dust in favor of better options on the Master System to scratch your itchy trigger finger. As I mentioned earlier, this is but one cartridge that demonstrated how Sega was essentially going through the motions of their 8-bit console in the wake of the Genesis launch, and sadly, it wouldn't be the last.